to 30 years before they do anything. They drop a box.
Fish just left.
Oh, he doesn't like me pounding him on that. He's not happy.
I know there's a couple of gentlemen who are waiting for item 13A. We'll get to that right after. So if we could please start with 1361.
They don't like me. They go after the government.
All those people leaving over the fish issue.
General obligation bond.
Commissioner Fritz.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm very grateful ongoing to the voters for approving the Fix Our Parks bond for $68 million in 2014. And as part of that bond measure, we promised full transparency and accountability for the use of taxpayers' money to fix.
So Harbor mastered and mariner for over 12 years, so I know dredging. I pulled all the permits and handled all the dredging. So
we have the funding for. On the other hand, we do have the $68 million. So we have an independent volunteer bond committee that monitors the bond process, and they ask tough questions to make sure the Parks Bureau did this bond in the way that the voters approved. The committee has been reporting annually to Council, as we promised we would, and our community also, regarding our performance and progress towards goals. And so please welcome with me Bond Committee Chair Dion Jordan to provide the committee's annual report. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, and good morning to the Commissioner and the Mayor. It's good to see you. As I stated before, my name is Dion, and I am the committee chair of the Portland Bond Oversight Committee, Portland Parks Bond Oversight Committee. I believe you have before you a copy of our annual report. Therefore, I will not go over it in its entirety, but instead share with you a summary of the report. And I hope that you now have a copy of the PowerPoint. As you know, this committee was charged with evaluating the bond measure efforts of Portland Parks and Recreations with three major objectives in mind. These objectives are to adhere to the language of the bond, to maintain fiscal accountability, and be transparent with the community in our efforts. So here's a quick overview of the second year status of these objectives. The first one, adhering to the language of the bond. In other words, doing what we said we would do. The committee believes that deliverables were met based on the promises contained in the language of the voters' pamphlet. By the close of the second fiscal year, all 34 Phase 1 projects were underway, with 8 projects complete, 19 projects on or ahead of schedule, and only 7 behind schedule as of June 30th of this year. The second year also marked the establishment of Phase 2's project list. The second objective, maintaining fiscal accountability. The committee believes that bond dollars have been clearly and separately traced and ensured that the integrity and accuracy of financial statements were met. Portland Parks remains fiscally accountable of bond dollars with a separate program tracking system accessible to all staff, and administration overhead is within 10% of the total budget. Budgets are on target in all categories except for the pools. Portland Parks and Recreation is confident that the bond contingency fund and program dollars will cover the cost of overrun. If you remember, the Oversight Committee's recommendation last year to Portland City Council and Portland Parks was the establishment of a contingency fund to ensure that projects were completed.
Where I sit on the
The
trees, we
committee
should
is
compensate the
pleased
Native
with the
Americans for the
establishment
loss
of
of
a
their
$2
income
million
off the fish.
contingency
They
fund.
shouldn't.
No.
This
They can't
ensures
sell
that
this fish.
commitments to Portlanders will be fulfilled and improvements to
That's why he
safety
left
will
Maine.
be
Yeah, he's making phone calls
equitable
right
and
now.
also a priority. Then number 3, the third objective, be transparent with the community in our efforts. The committee believes that Portland Parks and Recreation has acted in a way that promotes equity and participation and accountability. Portland Parks have shown that they value community input. Outreach and participation by diverse members of the community have helped build trust in the $68 million program. Public input included 2 town halls, 6 neighborhood coalition sessions, a new Portlanders Youth Ambassadors meeting, 2 park board meetings, 40 public meetings, signage at 136 locations, and over 77,000 website visits to Portland Bond project sites. Last year, the Oversight Committee recommended that Portland Parks Recreation establish metrics
Commissioner
that
Fritz kind of
illustrate
looks
the
like
efforts and
Portlandia
the
in that
success
picture.
of
Don't
those
you?
efforts.
Take that picture.
Portland Parks is working on some
Is that a
targeted
pitchfork?
surveying strategies as we speak. Ideally, these
Little
efforts should
pitchfork.
gauge if members of the public feel the process is open and transparent, whether they feel welcome to participate. Additional funds will be spent on this effort and serve as a guide of outreach efforts in the upcoming years. Because of these efforts, 2 new projects were added to the list of Bond Phase 2, one at Fernan Hill Park to address the lead water supply removal, and the other at the East Portland Community Center to address accessibility improvements. So in conclusion, the Oversight Bond Committee feels that Portland Parks and Recreations have completed the objectives and promises made to the voters. Thank you.
Now, we don't usually take testimony on reports, but given that this is an oversight body, if anybody does want to have a brief comment, I'd be open to that. Anybody have any? Okay, just wanted to make the opportunity available. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Jordan, for your leadership on the committee and also your service on the Parks Board and various other challenges that we ask you to step up to, and you certainly have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very good. I'll accept a motion to accept the report.
So moved. This is where you say second, Commissioner Fish.
Second. Thank you. We have a motion. I always do it. And we have a second to accept this report. Thank you for your service. Please call the roll.
Udaley. Thank you for the
There's
report.
minutes.
Aye. Fritz.
Well, thanks again to Dion Jordan and the other members of the Oversight Committee, Ken Richardson, Zari Satner, Jonathan Hello, and Karen Loper. I'm very proud of this project. Thank you. Aye.
Fish.
I think if anyone wants to know what a model report looks like, annual or otherwise, I would have you look at what Parks produces. And it's just beautiful, beautifully laid out, it's easy to read. And so congratulations, Commissioner, for the presentation. Also, I just want to say while Dion's here, you know, someday I'll look back on the honor that I had to be in public service. But in my bucket list, the day we spent with your dad honoring him when we named the community center for him had to be one of the highlights. And you know, when you talk that old cliche about big shoes to fill, when Nike made a pair of shoes in his honor, then I think we all realized how big his feet really were. Those shoes are on display at Charles Jordan Community Center. So it's a beautiful legacy, and you as his son continues to honor that legacy with your service. So thank you.
Thank you.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for their hard efforts on this, Commissioner Fritz in particular. Thank you for taking the lead on behalf of the City Council. I vote aye for the reports. Accepted.
May I just add some
Commissioner
thanks
Fritz.
to Lauren Maguire and Maya Spencer as well as Mike Abate. Your work has been exemplary on all of this, and it's very wonderful now that we get to keep going to do some openings or reopenings as they all are. So thank you for your work.
Very good. Item 1379, please.
1379, reappoint John Klon to the Portland Parks Recreation Bond Oversight Committee for a term to expire December 31, 2020.